I'm Lila, and I am horizontal.
And I'm Philip, and I am horizontal with Lila.
Sex positive culture.
It's my body to give.
Are threesome gifts a thing?
Taking a bath.
I like your bed.
Horizontal.
Horizontal.
This is Horizontal with Lila.
I'm just gonna only move my lips and my eyes.
I think it's a good idea.
In this episode, I lie down with Philip Stehlik of the sex-positive venture Cambyo. He is an excellent communicator, a world-class hugger, and somehow his presence simultaneously calms and excites me. I wish he lived in New York. Cambyo, Cambyo, is designed to help people develop their intimate lives. Through their online publication, research, community building, and in-person events such as a sort of town hall meeting in which people are invited to share their experiences around intimacy, sexuality, and relationships in semi-public, Cambyo aims to cultivate a safer space for people to discuss intimacies. This episode, as an experiment, was recorded in the basement event space at Hacienda Villa, called Hacienda Studio. It's roomy and echoey. We're marooned on a little island of a mattress with a purple sheet in the middle of a huge space that spans almost the entirety of the brownstone. And the house itself makes some noise, as if it wants to be a third character in our conversation. In this episode of Horizontal, we talk about the lack of proper sex ed, learning about sex from books and porn, marriage and change, and witnessing your partner in the hospital. Won't you please come lie down with us?
Yes. On an early morning, today we're recording in the basement event space of Hacienda Villa, at which I've never recorded in here before. I have been horizontal in here at some point.
Not only you.
I'm not the only one.
Yes, you're not the only one.
I'm certainly not the only one. In fact, Philip might have been horizontal here not so long ago.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say I was horizontal down here, but I saw a lot of horizontalness going on.
Horizontality.
Horizontality, yes, thank you. As you can probably hear by my lovely accent, English is my second language. But Saturday night was wild. It was great. And this basement was decked out. And a lot of lovely, lovely people doing their things
Yes.
in various ways.
So you came to our crime and punishment themed party.
Yes.
And down here was the jail, right? Jail cell.
Yes, it looked very dungeony.
Yes.
Jail cell, people were getting restrained and were getting it on in those jail cells.
Yes, indeed. I didn't, because after a little while, I don't want to lie down here. After the sheets have been,
Yeah.
used a little bit.
Yeah, I during earlier in the evening, somebody said you're supposed to use the pads to put them down on the sheets before you get down to business. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've seen anybody put
Use
down
them
any
because
pads.
they're so unsexy.
Yeah, it's a plastic pad.
They're actually wee pads for dogs, right?
Oh, good. I didn't know that. Great. Okay.
Now I've discouraged you even more from using them. I don't mean to discourage.
Yeah.
These are good cleanliness practices.
Yes, I just didn't. So I agree with you. The sheets at some point of the night, you just gotta just be that much into it and that much into passion and just going for it. You're not caring.
Yeah. With arousal, a lot of compunction falls away.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There were actually studies. So there were studies where they had students watch porn, or basically put them in front of in a decision, and then they had them get aroused by watching porn, and then they put them in front of a decision again, and the students, when they watched porn, were much more likely to take risky decisions after they got aroused and after they got into the mood, and were also much more likely to take decisions that are out of their norm beforehand. So absolutely, the more aroused and turned on you are, the less like your logical circuits, I guess, are already working.
That makes perfect sense to me. And if you have a risk-taking partner to begin with, things can get perhaps a little dicey.
You mean just a partner in general, or a partner in crime in that specific point in time? Like, so, and you mean a partner that is willing to take risky things?
I mean, if you're sexually involved with a person who is a risk taker,
I see.
who has a high level of risk tolerance,
Mm-hmm.
and then you put them in an aroused situation,
Mm-hmm.
that can get borderline dangerous.
Have you had any of that kind of situations before, or witnessed them?
I think just kind of peered around the edges of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had one. We were actually talking about that a couple of days ago, and we were wondering why some people don't use condoms when they have sex or when they have intercourse. And each of us had a story where the person they were engaging with was totally fine not using condoms in the moment, and we were like, what the fuck? Like, if you're and I think the arousal state is definitely something in there, and the story that we're telling ourselves, oh, this is going to be the unsexy part of the night where I have to get a condom. I still don't get it. Like, why would you not use a condom?
No, I don't use condom with my partner, but I did for basically my entire sexual life. I had only 2 instances, one with a boyfriend in which I became extremely uncomfortable and nervous, and I said, we have to stop. I can't enjoy this.
Uh-huh.
No, it was three instances. One with a guy who was comforting me one night over another lover, did not ask, and came inside me.
Oof.
And then the next day I had to go get a morning after pill.
Oof.
And later on, when I confronted him, he was a director of mine. I'd worked with him on a play. Later on, when I asked him about it, he said, I just assumed that you were taken care of because you didn't stop me. And when pressed further, he said, yeah, I do have my cavalier side. And then another instance in which I was just so gaga for this guy, and in my naivete thought that unprotected sex with him would bond him to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. And again, I went and got a pill the day after, I think.
Yeah.
But what I discovered from those experiences, from the later ones, was that I thought for a long time that I was just a woman who didn't enjoy penetrative sex. And I felt very sad and embarrassed about that. Like, everybody thinks that, penetrative sex is so delicious and, worth all this trouble and feels so amazing and so connective, and it just didn't feel that good to me. I either couldn't feel it, or it chafed, or it actually caused fissures. Have you ever?
No, I don't know what a fissure is.
A fissure is a very, very tiny cut that you get from the abrasion, that you can get from the abrasion of the condom inside the vaginal walls when they're not wet enough. So I often was dry and would be entered much earlier than was okay. And when I had some instance of unprotected sex, I thought, oh my God, I'm not somebody who just doesn't like penetration. It's just miserable for me to have a condom. Still did it, with all of my partners, except for this one, because we shared our test results. We waited the amount of time that you would need to wait. after having had sex with the last partner, to get the test done, for things to show up. And we look at my cycle so that if we are in my ovulation window, what is that?
It's the house moving. No, it's the wood is expanding, and we're getting distracted by the house making creaking noises.
If we're in my ovulation window or a couple days on either side of it, we do use condoms.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be pregnant, and I'm not taking birth control because it wreaks havoc on my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that clarification, because I should have been more specific. Is completely understanding not using condoms if you are in a relationship with somebody where you can be sure that, or as sure as you can be, that there are no STIs or STDs being transmitted between the two of you. And if you don't want to get pregnant, use an alternative for birth control. But we were specifically talking about things like the party here on Saturday, or just like random encounters.
Yeah.
Where I was at a party in San Francisco, a sex party, and one woman just came up to me and we started chatting, and she was telling me I'm a nymphomaniac. I really need to fuck. I was like, oh wow, this is going to be interesting. This is going to be great. And so we chatted a little bit, and then she was like, you want to go back? And we did go back into the play area and started like making out and so on, and we're getting it on. And at some point we're sitting in front of each other, and she would just like kind of wanted to sit on my cock. And I was like, wait a second. Sir, this is weird. Like, it sounded like you were really proficient in having sex with a lot of different people, and why would you not use, those were the thoughts in my mind, why would you not use any condoms for that? That's kind of, I'm not quite sure what I'm getting myself into here. So we did use a condom, because that's no chance for me in this kind of situation to not use condoms.
Yeah.
But I was surprised. I hadn't encountered something like that before.
That definitely frightens me, right? So the thought of, it's another layer of fear for opening up, because there are people like that. And I used to think of it as this map where everyone that you had sex with was like lit up on this map, and then everyone they'd had sex with, and everyone they'd had sex with, right? And that's how diseases pass. And when you play with one person like that in a community that is very sexually open and promiscuous, you're having sex with all those people, And so that really gives me pause. And I'm really wrestling with this on many levels, this desire to give and have more pleasure, and the desire to feel cared for and grounded and having a soft place to land.
And you feel having that question mark on physical safety, basically, that takes away from that groundedness and that place to land? Yeah,
I think that's a huge contributing factor to destabilizing. The house is just constantly speaking.
Yeah, I don't even hear it, because our house in San Francisco is a wooden house, and they just, when the sun shines on them, they expand, and the wood expands, and some areas are colder, and they're just creaking. Just does it all the time. It's just in that nature of wood. Or maybe you guys have ghosts. That could be the other explanation.
It's very possible. I think this house used to be an ancillary house to the church that's across the way. We still get a lot of mail from other folks, Social Security letters and things. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, what did you learn about sex growing up in Germany?
It's interesting that you say in Germany, because I get that question every now and then. It's like, oh, you're from Europe. You must be such more liberally educated on sex when growing up and so on. And in some sense, yes, like everybody has sex ed in Germany, not like in the States where it's not everybody will have it, and you will learn just the practicalities of safer sex and these kind of things. But then when it comes to what did I learn outside of that, my parents are quite liberal, I would say hippie-ish. But even from them, like for my dad, I remember the time he told me, or he gave me the talk, right? We were walking down the stairs at my grandma's house into the basement to do something, and he knew I had a girlfriend. At the time, I was maybe 14 or so. And he was saying, just make sure you use condoms. And that was kind of it. And then the flip side of that, so my parents were divorced at the time. They're still divorced, but they were already divorced. My mother's new husband, were they married already? But he actually sat me down and gave me actually a little bit of a longer talk. So we talked again, but mostly about the technicalities of using a condom and so on.
He just showed you how to put one on?
No, he didn't show me. We just talked about it. In school, actually, we learned how to, we saw how to put on a condom. In sex ed, everybody put on a condom on, I think, like a wooden thing. I don't remember exactly. So there we actually got to try it using a condom. Like, of course not. Yeah, but you know what I mean. In hindsight, what really, I don't want to say pisses me off, but what I'm like feeling deprived of is somebody from the adult community to tell the 14, 16, 18-year-old Philip just a little bit more than just the technicalities, but tell me about, like, why did nobody ever tell me how to touch somebody with great care, or how to communicate your desires or your boundaries, or how to be with another person and work through conflict. And that's kind of going through my head in the recent years. And wouldn't blame my parents or anybody, because they're awesome. But it was on nobody's radar, really. Not even like an aunt would be a great, like if you not want to talk to your parents about this kind of stuff, and as a teenager, I completely get it. But like a fucking awesome aunt would be nice, or somebody kind of telling you about these kind of things. And especially as a man, like, it would have been so fucking amazing if I had a man in my life as a teenager who would have been able to tell me about, or would have been aware enough to tell me about things, like how to be a better man, or how to like be in your masculine but while honoring the feminine, or while honoring women, or breaking down some of these behaviors that exist in patriarchy, and basically how to be a young man growing up, but who is also feminist, who is also connected to relationship, and I mean the whole package. And that I didn't learn. I read some books when I was 16.
What books?
So the book, I don't know what the right translate. I read it in German, but basically translate how to be the perfect lover, or how to be a good lover. And it was.
What's the title in German?
Der perfekte Liebhaber.
Who wrote it?
I really don't remember right now. It was 15 years ago. But in that book, they also talked a little bit more about than just the condom practice, but also different types of touch and kissing and oral sex and anal sex and being gentle with each other and so on. By far no a comprehensive guide of how to really be a perfect lover in the sense of an ongoing lover relationship. But it was definitely eye-opening for me as a 15, 16-year-old young man. And my friends, actually I saw an old friend a couple of months ago, And I was telling him about kind of my journey, what I'm doing right now. And he was saying, yeah, I remember you read that book like when you were like 15, like you were always like reading these kind of things. So it was kind of funny that he remembered that.
It's in your history.
Yeah.
I kind of long for you to be that man that you didn't have when you were a teenager for young men.
Yeah.
And boys. I think they could really use someone like you.
Yeah. Thank you. That is definitely something coming on my mind, and how to do that is a big question for me. In like there are places where men with more life experience helping out adolescent boys, just making sense of life.
Mm-hmm.
Like whatever, Big Brother, or there are other associations like that. But sexuality and intimacy and relationships are not really part of that package. And I would be very hesitant to like barge in with that in mind, because I don't want to upset the frame that they have and create any kind of frictions there. So
well, it might have to be something new. It's the sexually educated parents that will take their son or daughter to something like that.
Yeah.
But particularly for men, there's such a need. I remember I had the opportunity to be almost a fly on the wall at this men's group meeting. And, I really wasn't. I was just staying at that place, and it just happened to be that I was there, and there's part of me that felt, I shouldn't be here. It's altered because I'm here, and of course it was. But it was a gift to have the opportunity to listen in, because these men spoke to how they were longing for what you were longing for as a young man, and in sexuality and in relationship and in embodying strength and in all these different realms. And so they had one of their number, the leader of the group, had a slightly older man, maybe in his 50s, had developed a kind of coming of age for these young American men, whereas he felt like, he said that if these men were in a Native American culture, they would have had a coming of age at an adolescent time, but they didn't have that because we don't have a framework for that or a structure for that in America that's widespread. Maybe there are some pockets and some groups that do it. So they would go into the woods and they would bloodlet, and they would, I think, spend a night alone, and they were also taught about how to engage with women. And I thought that was incredibly inspiring. And if we teach the boys, they'll teach each other, and they'll treat women better. And we start to turn those tides. But if they stay uneducated, patriarchy just continues to rule. I imagine kind of after-school program, you'd have to have, the parents would have to sign a waiver or something for their kids to opt into it. But a separate program for that. How do you make sense of your sexuality? How do you, to your best ability, do no harm with your sexuality and receive pleasure? We're educating adults here, but so many of them, almost all of them, say, damn, I wish I had this when I was 15. Damn, I wish I had learned this earlier on. It would have saved me so much misery and confusion. I mean, you said you learned the technicalities, only the technicalities. You only spoke of condom usage, but what else did you learn?
You mean from talking to parents, or?
Yeah, you said your stepfather, was it?
Yeah. No, those were pretty much all the technicalities.
Just condom use?
Yeah, pretty much. Just condom use. There was no real talk about how to have intercourse, or how to have oral sex, or how to kiss, or these kind of things. And I think, as we're talking about it, I'm thinking about why that was the topic. And I mean, probably I will check with my dad when I'm seeing him the next time, but probably to stay STD or STI free and
don't get a girl pregnant.
Exactly. Main concerns. And I get it, like in terms of if you wanted the hierarchy of sexual needs, like from a parent's perspective towards their kids, like that's like that's
yes.
like the most important baseline. Yeah, and then I'm thinking, what else did I learn? I started watching porn relatively young. I was probably like 12 or 11, and discovered that at my dad's roommate's computer, who had internet at the time, it was like a crazy thing, and there were like these websites, and I could go there, and that was quite fascinating. So in some sense, my sexual education also came from that, so that I saw intercourse, and I saw, of course, only that very little focus of what porn actually shows, and that is also distorted from how people have sex with people versus porn stars having sex with porn stars. But I get some from that, and then just having a lot of sex in my teenage years is like learning by doing, so to say. And
do you have a vivid memory of what kind of porn you watched initially?
I remember, so even before porn, I remember masturbating to lingerie models in like these catalogs. So that was like the very first quote pornographic kind of interactions I had. And then
do you have a remembrance of what you were imagining as you were masturbating and looking at them? Was it taking off the lingerie?
No, actually, because I had no fucking idea what is actually gonna happen. It was just arousing, and then I would like flip through the catalog, and I was like, oh, there's another one, and this is really interesting because I didn't have sex at the point, but yet it was really arousing to kind of see that. And as for porn, I mean, it must have been any kind of heterosexual porn. Like I wasn't really into watching like lesbian or quote lesbian or females having sexual interactions with each other on porn there, because I couldn't really relate at all to that at that point. And as I said, I didn't even have sex, so I couldn't really relate on many levels. But I would just say normal. Like there was nothing crazy. I was not into. I had friends who like in my teenage years, like we would share. I'm a tech nerd, right? So I have a tech background. So we would actually meet up with all of our computers and have like LAN parties to play games and share movies. And porn sharing was also a big part of there. And I had friends who were like into like the cartoon porns, but it never really struck my fancy.
The what porn?
Cartoons, like animated porn. It never really struck me.
I don't think I've ever heard of that, although of course it exists.
Yeah. You can find anime, and today they're like nice computer rendered porn things with crazy shit.
Virtual reality.
Oh yeah.
Elements. Yeah.
Yes. And actually, I don't know if you know that, but there is such thing as virtual reality porn.
I've been listening to Bryony's podcast, The Future of Sex, so I am aware now that there is VR porn.
Yeah, and so that was like the very early part of my pornographic exposure, so to say. And I stopped watching porn about 9 months ago. This doesn't interest me anymore. I'm not quite sure exactly what shifted. Well, I have some inklings, I guess, but I'm not really doing it anymore. But before you ask any question about that, I want to talk about virtual reality porn, because, as I said, I'm a tech nerd, and so I've got an early version of the Oculus Rift, which is a virtual reality headset. And, of course, we were playing games and all these kind of things, but I also subscribe to a virtual reality porn website.
What's it called?
Virtual real porn. Mm-hmm. And that was just too intense for me. It was so crazy. Like if you're already kind of getting stimulated the fuck out of yourself when you're watching, or when I'm watching porn, that just like you have a 180-degree view and there's a video running and this person is like right there and like in 3D. Wow. It was, for me, it was overload. So if I think ahead in 5, 10, whatever many years, people will use that and they will have teledildonics and so on. And at least at this point in my life, I'm like, holy shit, no, thank you. That's too much. It was too intense.
It's interesting. They actually, one of my housemates has a VR setup here in the basement.
Oh.
And he invites people to come and play games and, explore it. And I have never taken him up on it. And you could argue that it's the same as watching a movie. And I love getting involved in a movie or a television series. We watched Westworld here. We watched Game of Thrones all together. And it was a great group activity. And I love it and can get incredibly involved and excited and inspired by it. Yet the thought of stepping into a 360-degree virtual world seems like I will fritter away my time. I'll get so enamored of this virtual world that I'm not investing in my real world, which I don't think is an actual danger for me. But I think that's the kernel of why I haven't been even taking advantage of the fact that we have it here to try it.
So I had this set up at my house, and literally everybody who came over, I was like, guys, girls, just try it out. My mother-in-law, friends at a party. And it's an experience that, for me, at least how I look at it, I look at it similar to movies. It's an experience. And I can get hooked to all kinds of experience. I can get addicted to them in some kind of way, shape, or form. But if I treat it as an experience that I want to expose myself to or have to enrich life where I am right now, because maybe I just want to like not think about washing the dishes or whatever needs to be done, paying the bills or any kind of problems that might be coming up right now or that I have to deal with. I just want to like get out of here. Then that might be a nice way just to chill the fuck out. If you're not, or you read or whatever. So if I look at it from an experiential perspective, and for that it's amazing because you can go places and you can see things that just are wonderful and amazing.
I must try it.
Give it a shot, and you can also ask for an experience there that goes towards something that you would like to experience. Like they're very like calming and just fly over and like exploring landscapes kind of things, or there's like super fucking scary things where like literally I took my headset off and was like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not into that kind of stuff. So you have the choice what to experience.
Did you have any of that experience with the VR porn where I remember watching a documentary about the real doll, which is so incredibly lifelike that there's a word for this, but I don't remember what it is, that a human can experience a disgust because it's so close to human but not human. Do you experience anything like that?
No. It was more not the disgust or not the repulsion, but it was just too much because let me paint you the scene. You're sitting on a chair in your office or in your living room with your headset on, and there's a whole scene playing in front of me, watching whatever, two girls walking into a room, and like I look down and I see somebody's legs and their penis, or maybe they have pants on and whatever, and then the whole scene starts to unfold. And then at some point, this actor or actress is kneeling in front of the person that was filmed and sucking cock and like looking into the camera, so into my eyes, in like real, like in 3D. And that was for me, it's like, holy shit, like this is Maybe that's the disgust. I wouldn't feel the disgust. It was more just, I don't know if I can deal with that.
But what is the quality of that overwhelm?
For me, the quality of that overwhelm was, on the one side, this is fucking turning me on. This wonderful woman sucking cock, looking me in the eyes. On the other hand, fully realizing this is not real, because I'm sitting in my chair and I'm hearing my computer hum in the background and all this kind of stuff. And kind of that combined made it for me as like, yeah, this is not the kind of experience that I would seek from a. I couldn't let myself completely go in it. Maybe if I could, maybe I would just be totally carried away. But it didn't. That didn't work for me. So this, I don't know, the word maybe dissonance, or this big gap between, fuck, this is really, really hot, and this isn't real. And I wonder if somebody's going to come up the stairs in a minute and kind of see me in my chair contraption. Kind of like, okay, I can't do that.
Because that would be shameful?
No,
would it be embarrassing?
No, I guess maybe, but more just kind of that I'm actually not in that scene. I am just sitting on my chair. Like it was
alone.
Alone, yeah.
Right. And there's a sense to that of, well, why do you need it? Right? Or it's the people, the people who do that, it's because they can't have experiences in real life, or right? There's, I think, that stigma.
That could be. I mean, I watch porn with my wife. We didn't watch. Oh, maybe I don't remember if she watched virtual reality porn, but definitely that would be also have been more of just to check it out. But I mean, she knows that I used to watch porn, not so much anymore, or like masturbate, or even like lying in bed next to each other, and like, I'm just going to masturbate right now. So okay, have fun, and just kind of being there with the other person, even though you're not wanting to engage sexually very much. That's
still a real experience. Right?
Yeah.
You're having a real experience between the two of you. You're having a communal. Okay, you want to experience pleasure right now. I'm not quite in the mood, but enjoy. I'll still be in the same space with you. That is a real life experience. That thing that you said about that's not real.
Yeah.
That bothered you. If it didn't bother you, you wouldn't have taken off the headset.
Yeah.
And I have that too. But that's not real. And so I have that thought come up almost every time I listen to somebody speaking about teledildonics or something like this on the future of sex. I think, oh, but it's not real. And I completely respect that they're creating something so that people who don't necessarily have access to what I would call real sex, because who am I to say what is real or not, can explore sex. And we were talking about this in the Sex and Disability video blog conversation that we had here with the filmmaker with MS, Jason Da Silva. And, that's so limiting. Like, why does mainstream media or porn get to tell you that only penis in orifice is real sex? And that it has to be between humans, and it has to be, you know what I mean? Because if you put those limitations on it, and I am doing it in my brain, I'm trying to dismantle them now, but if you put those limitations on it, a lot of people get really sad because they can't experience it in that way. I've heard a lot of people talk about sexuality as a human right lately, and I like that idea. It certainly isn't going to be the same way for everyone.
Yeah.
So if I think, oh, well, that's not real sex, that's an attitude that contributes to a very limiting and potentially sex negative ideal.
I guess when you say that, the two components coming up for me, one is I don't enjoy it, so I shouldn't do it.
Yes.
Yet, why don't I do it? I don't know. Like maybe a self-judgment, maybe I really want to, but I judge myself. Then that might be something I would work on. But if I don't like it, that's fine. For me, as long as I don't hold others to that standard where I would say, well, that shit isn't real, son. Like, you shouldn't do that. And kind of like project my judgment out into the world with that. And then the other thing, it is real. Because everything that we experience is real in our own reality. And it was real that my mind was thinking somebody was looking me into the eye while sucking cock. I didn't have that the exact same physical sensation, but something in me perceives it as real. So I guess that's the other side of it. It is as real as any kind of experience is that you're having, and then you can be the judge of what kind of experience do you want to have.
Well, your arousal was real.
Yeah.
And I would say it's certainly as real as any fantasy. I fantasize all the time when I masturbate, right? That's just a multi-sensory fantasy.
Yes.
The second half of this episode has been released separately by popular demand. Horizontal's theme music was created by Alan Markley, on Instagram as Plastic Cannons. Its saucy cover art was designed and illustrated by Shauna Shea. Shauna is spelled S-H-A-N-A, and Shea is S-H-A-Y. Hire Shauna for character illustration and graphic design through 99designs.com. Horizontal was mixed and mastered by Owen Muir of Self-Disclosure Productions, right here in Brooklyn, New York. Stay tuned for Owen's own podcast, Self-Disclosure, a show where people talk openly for the first time about their own experiences with mental health. To sign up for the Horizontal show notes, exclusive subscriber content, and sensual horizontal photos, head to horizontalwithlila.com.
I have huge appetite.
For links to Cambyo, you can follow them on medium.com/Cambyo. Remember, it's with a Y. If you want to contribute a story of your own to the ongoing destigmatizing dialogue about intimate lives, please reach out to them.
I'm trying to recreate, a kind of studio atmosphere.
Yeah.
But horizontal.
Yeah.